interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
All right, Joey, thank you so much for coming on to South of the Eight. I know this was kind of thrown, not last minute, but I'm glad you agreed. Also,
yeah.
Our first video recording, if it does get posted, it's an attempt at least.
Yeah.
Let's just start by the fact, Reyes Rarities, I will say I'm a fan. I've been here plenty of times.
Heck yeah.
My girlfriend knows that if I come to Bar Logan,
yeah,
this is one of the stops I'm going to make. So.
Yes. Sick.
For those who don't know, Reyes Rarities is am I saying it right? Yeah, right. We're just
Reyes Rarities, yeah.
It's a bookstore in Bar Logan. What is this hall called? Is there a name?
This is the Art Hub.
Art Hub.
So yeah, all of us over here, we have an Instagram page, Art Hub Makers.
Okay.
So you can follow for events and whatnot.
Yeah, it's next to the Logan Inn, and between Logan Inn and Border X, I think it's what it is.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I like to say across the street from Port Vita.
There you go, across the street from Port Vita. And if you've been to any of the events in Bar Logan, you've seen it. I mean, it's the one hall that goes all the way back and all the way in. It has a lot of nice little shops, and there's just a lot going on. I really like it. It's one, like I said, it's one of my stops. Sick. And funny enough, when I finally made it all the way down here, it was cool to sort of see that this was here, especially because you'd walk in and you see the Shape books, the Marx books, right? Some Lenin, and I'm like, this is my place. This is awesome.
Hell yeah.
And again, I thought when I came in, they just happened to be here. And then I followed your page, and I was like, oh, okay, it's maybe a little more. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you want to talk a little bit about what this is, how it came to be, inspiration?
Well, it's run by me and my cousin, Chris. Okay. You'll see him in here. That's who you saw the first couple of times he came in. And before this, we had a landscape business.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it was just me and him most of the time, and we did design and installs of like drought-tolerant landscapes, and we tried to really push like edible stuff like fruit trees, chickens, vegetables, and that kind of stuff. And that has its pros and cons, running your own business and,
I'm sure.
And doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you're in construction, you know the deal. It's like, like there's a boss usually, and we kind of got around that by having our own thing. But then
that doesn't mean it's not hard work though.
It's freaking, and it's like we want to be selling fruit trees, but they want freaking retaining walls like every single time. And it's like, fuck, these blocks are like 50 pounds each, we moved like 200 of them. Yeah. And so COVID kind of like gave us a chance to reset a little bit. And I had rented a studio on the block with my wife. She's been here for many years, and she does jewelry. And yeah, I rented a studio just for like a place where I could draft like my designs and stuff for landscaping, and also write. I like to write.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, then this hallway opened up, and a bunch of us from the other hallway a bunch of people were moving over here, so we were like, fuck, I could have this big space, but it's going to be a lot more money, and I love to read, and kind of like post-pandemic revolutionizing of ourselves a little bit. It's like everybody went through the pandemic and came out, so radical. And I was like, fuck,
For the good or for the bad, I will say, though. I feel like there was definitely a lot of great radicalization, but there's also this, like, whirlwind of rabbit holes and, like, and really, really worrisome shit. But I didn't mean to
I mean, that's also important because it's like you want it to fall the right way. Like, you could easily be, like, incel freaking
exactly, and that's not to justify any of that behavior, of course, but there is people that happen to fall in one or other thing, and next thing you know, they're surrounded by Proud Boys. And again, this doesn't happen from one day to another, but the argument of like nature versus nurture and all that, your surroundings and the people around you definitely dictate kind of where you might end up leaning.
Oh yeah.
And it's worrisome sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. That's the whole materialist
exactly.
Understanding is pretty much nature or not nature. It's nurture. It's nurture. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So a lot of these books I already had, and one thing about me and my cousin is we worked all over town, all over San Diego, even up into like Murrieta sometimes.
Oh wow. Okay.
And we just always went to thrift stores and estate sales and stuff like that. So And before we were just collecting knickknacks just for ourselves, but now it's
Where
like
were you putting all of this, if you don't mind me? Before you had a shop?
my parents' closet at their
Just
house.
kind of shove it in
Yeah.
and put it away?
I had like probably 4 totes,
Oh, wow.
big totes
Yeah.
full, like the biggest totes there are, full of books, just thousands of pounds of books.
And I
like
will
this.
say, are you like me where you'll buy it, maybe not even read it, and just kind of just keep stacking
Oh
them,
yeah,
stacking
that's
them?
how I got all these.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of those things that I'm proud of, but also a little bit embarrassed, because they're like, man, you're always buying books. And I'm like, if you only knew that I don't have the time to read all of them. I wish I did. And
Yeah.
I might start 1 or 2, finish a couple, but then I'm already buying more than I could possibly read.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough books even in this tiny ass bookstore. You wouldn't be able to finish all these in your life.
No, exactly.
it's
Exactly,
like-
yeah.
But that's pretty cool because
Yeah.
you're kind of like, there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sick.
And one thing I'll say for people that might be like, oh, I can't never finish a book. Like, it's okay. Like, if the book's not doing it for you, put it away.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many books I've come back to that I'm glad I didn't force myself, because then you force yourself and you hate the book. You hate the author. You hate the topic. You're like, fuck, why
Yeah.
did I even read this,
Yeah.
But if you put it away, you might find yourself back and then you'll fall in love with it again,
Mhm.
And I feel like that'll happen a lot, too, with books I've already read. I'll read them again thinking, to spark something and be like, seeing it completely differently, maybe because I'm older, and be like, wow, I can't believe I used to like this, or I believe I used to think this,
Yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, you can never step in the same river twice. You know what I
Exactly,
mean? You're just a constantly changing
Yeah, hopefully.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you just are like strict.
No, but
I do the same
I know
exact
what
thing.
you mean. Yeah, definitely, and that's a good thing, But yeah, I definitely have that problem where my income of books is definitely a lot more than my output.
Oh, for sure. And then especially because it's like, we're super small. We're not like raking in the dough, but
Yeah.
like, we do have a little bit of a budget for like buying
More
books,
books,
you
yeah.
know. It's like, oh, let me get a little peek under the hood really quick before I put
Yeah.
it on the shelf,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's,
And was that transition?
I haven't finished books in a while.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say, was that transition hard? Because I couldn't imagine trying to sell one of my books, because I'll have a lot of books and people want to borrow them, and it costs me so much to be like, okay, like sure. Because
Yeah.
you mentioned, you had a lot of these, or you had a lot of them put away. And when I came in last time, I remember one of the books I bought. You're like, oh, I really wanted to read that one. And my
Yeah.
girlfriend saw it as like, oh, that's cool. He thought it was cool. I'm like, no, I understand his pain. Like, sometimes letting a book away go that you wanted to read, maybe you wouldn't have read it. Who
Yeah.
knows, right? Like, but seeing it go away must have been hard. Like, it must be
Yeah.
hard.
I mean, it's like a addiction because
right.
it's like I usually work Saturday, Sundays. So, Sunday I'll be like, I'll have a little stack of books that I've collected that I'm going to try and bring back into the rotation of me to read.
Right.
But it doesn't happen. And then in like 2 weeks, I'll bring it back and put it on the shelf, So,
Yeah, no, I get that. It's hard, like you said. It's a bit of an addiction. I mean, I guess it just sounds really aggressive, but
well, I mean, we're so like we all have this trauma from like being forced to read books in school that we don't want to.
That's so funny. Yeah.
And it's like, reading and learning for pleasure, and for self-betterment
yeah.
is like the transition. Like people are like, I don't want to fucking read, Oh, whoops, sorry.
You're good.
I don't want to read,
Yeah.
I had to do that in school. I read enough, but
And it was probably like a lot of people's like worst nightmare in school. It's like, I
Yeah.
have to read the book, right? And like,
yeah,
and like I have to do a report, and you're force fed all this information. And again, looking back now, it's like, man, I had so much time to read those books. I wish I would have taken advantage. But again, you're a different person. I consume infotainment now, which for those who don't know is, like informational essays on YouTube and like all these little things like SciShow or like, again, like video essays, things like that.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know, man. I just find that shit interesting. But 10 years ago, me would have been like, ugh, what are you watching?
right, yeah. No,
it's-
totally.
yeah, so it's funny how that happens, that you look back and well, at least for me, speaking personally, like I look back and I wish I would have appreciated like my education a lot more. And not necessarily for where I am. I'm happy with the job I have, but just more in the aspect of like, man, I had all those teachers. I could have asked them like really cool questions,
Yeah.
or maybe engaged a little more. And I was like a gate kid, one of those kids that like, blew air into their ass and it was like, you're better than everybody. You know?
Oh, wow.
Like, and it's like, I was just my comprehension was just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it made schools look better. So then they would take us out of class and tell us how great and how far we were gonna get, all for it to just make me feel like I didn't have to study hard. And then when high school and community college came, I was like, I don't need this. I'm smarter than this. And then I never fit. I dropped out of community college, for as sad as that sounds.
Hell yeah.
But you know,
So did I.
Yeah.
So did everybody.
So did everybody, right? So it's just, yeah, it's crazy again. But then there might be a correlation also between like reading and education that I feel like a lot of us know, but there is also like reading and entertainment that maybe not so many people.
Well, it's just like when I go home, I'm like, I could watch Netflix, I could watch TikTok on my phone, I could, you know, I should probably keep writing this book that I've been working on. You know, there's about 1 million things that I could do, and it's like the book. It's kind of like the nicest one of those that you could do. It's like, it's so relaxing, you know. And actually, I kind of ruined it for myself because I read right before I go to bed.
Oh, okay.
So like my brain is now trained to like sleep when I start reading.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say I went to a weird school. I went to High-Tech High Media Arts.
What was that? I remember hearing about people going there, and I never really understood what it was because it wasn't like a normal school, right?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was like a charter school, but it's like Bill Gates' school. So it's like they were trying to like
STEM, very big on STEM.
Yeah. Well, STEM. What's that?
Like
science,
technology.
Yeah. It was like that.
Yeah.
And whatchamacallit, they designed the school like a zoo, and they had investors walking the halls.
Oh wow. That's
and
weird. So was there just like a lot of plexiglass?
Yeah, it was like
school classes and stuff.
Yeah,
like that?
and so we'd see these like suits just walking past, like,
wow.
And they're taking notes and stuff, and they're getting like a tour. And what it was, it's like they're trying to like take over the public school system,
like privatize it. All of it.
All of it, you know, and
Jesus Christ.
So it was really cool in some ways, but also it was like really fucked up for the teachers because they could get fired any time and stuff, like, you know, like they don't have any
crazy pressure too, probably, huh?
And
for the students, I would imagine, because you probably have to perform. I would think.
Well, honestly, you could kind of get away with some shit. So it was just like, it was like we had access to all this cool equipment, but then we also didn't have like a what do they call it? Like the person counselors, huh? Yeah, like, so they didn't have counselors.
That was we really didn't thing to do.
Yeah,
just get rid of all counselors. Not to say that mine didn't do a whole lot, honestly.
It was like the neoliberalization of schools. Huh. You know what I mean? Like,
that's crazy.
Like, just get rid of all the social services and just like
focus on
the
Yeah, that's gotta be pretty crazy. I remember hearing about that school, and I remember it being like, oh, like people are moving, because I remember people from my school would move specifically to High-Tech High, and I always thought it was like something paid, right, like a charter school or something like that. But I didn't realize it was like that. That's kind of interesting. And is that still a thing? Like, is that still pretty common?
Oh, I think it's growing.
Oh shit!
I think it's growing.
Wow.
And I mean, I realized later when I started doing videos for the bookstore, I was like, oh, I know how to edit videos. Yeah. I did this before. Like,
that's crazy.
So
was there like still like a focus on like trying to get to college and things like that? But was it always like testing, or were they trying to take a different approach to learning and progressing?
Everything. This was tight, actually. It was everything was project based.
Huh. Okay.
So you worked on like one big project throughout the semester.
Okay.
And they tried to include like math and science and everything into this different project, so it had different aspects. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was
different. I guess.
It was cool too.
How long were you there for? Like all of high school?
I was there for all of high school.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you had no taste of like regular high school then? I guess middle school. I mean, middle school's pretty.
And then I went to Catholic school.
Oh wow!
So I had a really.
So you didn't have.
I didn't go to public school. Yeah,
normal governmental school. That's interesting.
Huh. How was it like for you?
Just
Where'd
whatever you see on movies. Chula Middle, Chula High.
Chula Middle, Chula High.
So same people from like 7th grade to like 12th grade. If they didn't get kicked out and went to like Palomar or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Which I had a lot of friends that did. But Yeah, I mean, it's everything you see on TV dialed down like 50%.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have the bullies. I'm sure there was bullies, just I didn't have to deal with them. But like, there's not like your typical cliques. There is groups of people, but it's very much like, I don't know. Again, like this is very much my experience. But it's just, again, everything you see on TV, 50% less. You know, I mean, obviously they get it for somewhere. But I mean, I liked it to an extent. Again, I went through high school thinking that, like this is annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I got out of there, I remember thinking like, fuck, I wish I would have tried harder. For the sense of like, man, now I'm in community college. But I don't know. I liked learning. I was always told I had quote unquote potential, but it just got so. I got over it really young.
What do you think you could have done?
Oh, I don't know, man.
Like what field do you think you?
I remember I had a physics teacher, Mr. Streifer. Shout out, Mr. Streifer. He was a really cool teacher, and he always told me like, "Oh, you should go into something like engineering wise." He was like an aquatic engineer or something like that. I don't know, something to do with boats. And I was like, I hate math. And he's like, well, math is just a tool. Yeah. It's a hammer that you use to build a house. Like, it's not the house that you're building.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. But again, I didn't apply myself. And you can't go to a 4-year college, engineering degree if you don't really apply yourself.
Yeah.
And again, I don't have any regrets. Academia is for some, and it's not for everybody. And I feel like, like, what is that saying? Like, you can't judge a fish by its climbing abilities. Oh, yeah. I feel like a lot of that happened to me. I do like reading. I love taking in information and stuff like that. But maybe my application of my knowledge is different than someone else's. And maybe it just didn't. Again, I graduated high school and I did okay.
Yeah.
But I can see why I couldn't go further.
I also think that the system isn't sophisticated enough to utilize our potential.
Exactly.
It's like they have managed to convince us that it's all on us, that we don't realize our own potential, and this is some perfect, kind of experiment, and you are where you are, like, but
on
it's
your own fault. Yeah.
It's like I'm pretty sure the largest private employer is still Walmart.
Yeah.
It's like,
hands down.
You really think that all the potential of these people who work at Walmart is to work at Walmart? It's like, no, that's the job that's available,
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think in some academia too, you see that there's like a super surplus of all these people with college degrees, and they end up doing all this stuff, and it's like maybe we could have been, engineers doing like high-speed rail or something, but there's not.
It's no availability for that.
There's no availability for that here because.
But that goes even deeper sometimes when people consider college as this sort of like cookie cutter pathway or stepping stone to being rich, right? Everybody thinks, especially within like our communities and stuff like that, people from south of the 8, you gotta drop the name.
Yeah.
Nice. There's this huge belief, right, that like, oh man, if my kid just makes it to college, we're good. Like if my kid makes it to college, that's it. Like they're set for the rest of their life. And we're seeing more and more that people graduate college, they graduate a master's degree, and they get out and they're like, fuck, what do I do now? Or maybe they transition their career completely and they end up doing something they don't even like, they didn't even study. So it's this idea behind of what are you really getting out of college and transitioning it over. It's scary for a lot of people, and that's one of the things I see. And I'm not one of those people who are like, you fucked up, you shouldn't have done it, because to each their own. People that I know that went to college,
go to college,
they got a lot from college, and I feel for them because I'm like, I get what you mean, man. I mean, I did some college. I became an EMT right off of high school.
Oh, wow.
So I did like
hard on the back.
Yeah, carrying a lot of people.
Yeah.
I did like a year of community college, right, and got their certificate. So I saw a lot of people that were doing school around me, and man, I feel for them. They were suffering,
Yeah.
But again, like you said, it's just maybe the way, like this one size fits all thing is just, obviously it's not working.
Yeah, and it's like we need our infrastructure's crumbling. Like, we eat all this crappy food. There needs to be more farmers and construction workers, and just like, and it's like, who saves more people in our society? You ask anybody on the street, they'd say doctors.
Right.
No, it's the sewage workers.
Yeah.
Because what wiped out all these cities in medieval times? It was like.
Shout out to my pipe layers. That's what I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah, man.
That's tight.
I don't mess with public like live sewage as much. There's a crew for that. That's the shit crew. Like,
the shit crew.
Respect to them, man. Those guys love what they do.
Super respect.
But-
They've saved all of our lives
for sure.
1,000 times over,
Yeah.
like, because those pipes are running right next to water pipes.
Right,
it's
or
like,
the people
you
that are
fuck
butchering,
up, it's
yeah,
like-
or like the people that are sending us our food, right?
Yeah.
The people that ride the trailers that bring us our food. I mean, there's this like meme that it's like, let's thank Jesus for our food, and then it's a picture of a farmer. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And it's like, I
exactly.
get that it's a joke, but it's like, it really goes into, it just really goes to show that like there's so much that goes behind the chicken in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's scary to think about because our society could collapse tomorrow and we wouldn't eat anything for years, but we would never see a mango again in our lives.
Yeah.
But it also goes to show that like there should be an appreciation for everything that goes down the toad pole. And again, this isn't to say anything to the people that do make it to college, but it was very pushed on us that like you have to go to college. Like college is the only option. At least for myself, growing up, it was like you have to go to college, and if you don't go to college, you're a fuck up, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention like all the trades that are need people and make the world run. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just that there has to be diversity of employment for everybody, right? Like, and like growing up, my dad is in construction. I if I'm being honest, I looked down on construction because I was like, no, that's what my dad does. Like,
Yeah.
I need to do better. And when he took me to the union hall, and I met all these great people, and I was already
Are you a
pretty
union
left.
guy?
Yeah, I'm union. Yeah,
Oh, respect.
I was already pretty
Hell
pretty left leaning, so I had a better appreciation of it, and I was like, oh fuck. But it's just the like again, those are beliefs I had because of the school that I had and the beliefs that are put on me, right?
Yeah.
So many teachers telling you like, oh no, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna do better. It's always the word better, and it's like no, that's useful. And I'm union, which means I have benefits and I'm getting paid properly, and
Nice.
I'm still getting exploited, but it's a little less than other people.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
At least you have like a line of defense against the exploitation,
Exactly.
which is why we at Reyes Rarities are pro-union. You know,
Oh, for sure. That's I can't say I doubted it, but that's actually
it's
pretty.
surprising working class people who are against unions. You know,
I see it at my
Just like-
job because where I am, union has a pretty strong hold in California, thankfully, and especially places like LA, right? LA, New York, things like
Yeah,
that. But here in San Diego, there's a lot of big mixture. People don't realize that San Diego is like super conservative. Like growing up, especially
Yeah.
in these neighborhoods, people always like, "Oh, we're blue," and it's like, I
yeah.
don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
we're pretty.
You should hear what Jim said the other day.
Yeah,
He
it's
said
like
some
there's a
crazy-
reason Santee is called Clan Tea.
Oh yeah,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure.
So
And Point Loma, when you look on the voting map,
Exactly.
you zoom in on
Exactly.
Point Loma, it's solid red.
and then not far from here, you got like Orange County, which
Yeah.
is another like big red
Oh,
dot
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
California. So again, I see this a lot at work where it's like people that are in unions because we have union operators. I'm a union laborer. There's union carpenters, and you'll have lunches where everybody's like, "Oh fuck this! I gotta pay this. I gotta pay that." So even within people that are in the union, they still complain. But funny enough, people that are very conservative, they'll defend the union because to them somehow it's not the same thing, which good, you know. But
Yeah.
they'll defend it, and I'm like, hey, at least you're able to see that we have some leverage, we have protections, and there's someone looking out for us and things like that.
Well, I think just generally in the States, we don't understand our relationship to labor.
yeah,
You know, it's like
100%.
you work part of the day to feed yourself, and then you work the rest of the day to feed somebody else who
Yeah.
not working with you.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's like not just feed, to give them all your surplus value. Like,
yeah,
you know, imagine Starbucks,
yeah.
within an hour, you've sold enough drinks
Oh, it's
to
crazy.
to
There was,
pay
like-
for your whole freaking.
Yeah, there was a pizza parlor, I think it was in Detroit, that like the owner opened up he told his employees like whatever we make today, we're gonna split eight ways evenly, right? Through all the employees. And each employee made something like $300 an hour, which was something insane. I might be butchering this.
No,
you guys
but
can look it
that's
up.
the-
But it was something crazy to the point, and it made a point that like, hey, listen, like, it just goes to show that like, if people were owners of their own production, right, then maybe people just live happier. Right, like, and I'm not saying all of the profits because obviously some money has to go into the dough, some money has to go into the tomatoes, but it's everything everything that's quote unquote profits. That's just unpaid labor.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah, exactly. Why does all that surplus that we all worked for go to like this person's Rolls Royce, you know, like.
Yeah, it's like another. I love quoting memes, but there's another one. It's like if I work harder and I wake up early and I bust my back, maybe my boss can get another new car.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I saw a TikTok like that.
Yeah, and again like this. And again, there's this like hustle mentality for people that listen to this podcast know how much I hate that shit, but because I talk about it like every other episode.
Oh my god!
But the idea behind like the hustle mentality, right? All it really is just telling you to work yourself to the ground and be proud of it. And especially within like Mexican culture, like or machismo culture, there's this idea that you have to like shut up and work, right? Like you have to be a hard worker, and that means work yourself to the ground. So there's a lot of personality and beliefs that go behind it that sort of push those ideas, and that's why it's hard to fight them sometimes, because you're not just telling them, hey, maybe act your wage, or hey, maybe you should ask for more, without them feeling like a direct attack on their personality.
That's a real hard
a
hard thing to do. It's like, hey man, let's get a ladder. Why'd you climb the tree, dude? You don't have healthcare or anything. God, you don't get paid enough for this. But then it's like, what the fuck, you know? Like,
that's one thing I'm thankful. Everybody around me has been. We've had so many. Well, a lot of people have seen so many accidents that now, like, hey, no, put on the visor, and everybody talks about like, well, back in the day, that shit doesn't happen anymore. Though, like everybody's no, because I remember when I started. Yeah. I was part of that mentality of like, I just gotta jump in, you know, because I didn't want to get fired. So I would jump in, and people would stop me and be like, no, hold on, like let me tie the ladder down. Hey, make sure someone's holding that, or hey, make sure you wear your boots, like your steel-toe boots, before you use this machinery. So then that made me feel really safe, because I was like, oh, okay, like there isn't a pressure in that I'm not gonna hurt myself. Yeah. I mean, I still could, but I'm not. There's less of a possibility of me hurting myself. You know?
Oh yeah, and like the drive to like do some dangerous shit, you know.
Yeah, in the name of like the company or whatever.
In the name of the company, yeah.
It's rough, man. It's rough to have this conversation with people, but it's actually a great transition over to a little bit of your agitprop, if you don't mind me calling it that.
What is it?
Agitation propaganda.
Oh, I mean, it's just agitprop. Yeah. Okay, I'm with it.
I didn't mean to. It sounds scarier than it really is, but it's just like the videos you share. That's one of the things that really drew me over to your page. Funny enough, I was already a fan of the bookshop before I found them.
Oh, sick.
Which is cool. So when I followed it, I was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit of like what inspired you to do those videos, and maybe some of the topics that you hit?
Oh, wow. I try and keep it pretty topical, I guess, like something that like I see that week, or you know, something that just I know about. Like one thing is like me and my cousin, we spent years and years and years. We had our business for 5 years, developing our idea about labor and politics and government and stuff like that. So, you know, I spent a lot of time in the dojo just trying to like learn the shit before I like preach.
Yeah.
And even now I'm just barely cracking the surface, you know. So it's like I try and just choose things where it's like, oh, I know for sure that that's wrong. Right. You know what I mean? Like I can speak on that a little bit, you know. But mostly for me, it's anti-imperialism. It's just like I love labor, and I love talking about labor. I love doing labor when you're with your boys and you're getting something done. Boys, girls, you know. Yeah. But mostly in my experience, it's been the fellas, you know.
Yeah. Digging holes in the beach.
Digging holes in the beach. Yeah.
Nothing more beautiful.
Nothing more beautiful than that. Yeah. But, like, I think for us in the United States, especially in San Diego, I mean, what's the primary contradiction, you know what I mean, in our society? And it's that, we're fucking bombing all the rest of the world, keeping them in suspended animation, blocking the food and medicine and all kinds of useful tools with sanctions, you know, and blockades, and not to mention the World Bank, you know, putting them under these hostile loans that keeps them as like indebted servants, you know. Yeah. And, you know, that's a really hard thing if we were on the left, you know. It's like, which was the left even mean, but I'd say, I guess I'm on the left, or like a socialist or something like that, you know. And it's like, Well,
It's not Democrats. I'll say that.
what's that?
It's not Democrats.
No, fuck
Left of
liberals.
that.
Fuck the Democrats.
It's left of neoliberalism.
No,
My definition.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, they fall for it every time. They fall for the imperialism every time. It's like, you know, they were cheering on the Iraq War. They were cheering on Afghanistan. They were cheering on Libya. You know,
They didn't care about Yemen.
They didn't care
They
about
don't
Yemen.
care about Palestine.
They don't care about Palestine. You know, and it's like, okay, then you get to something like the Ukraine and Russia. It's like, forget all the shit that happened before. Like, you know, we need to dump fucking trillions of dollars of weapons.
Yeah, well,
like,
people and
people are cheering it on. It's like, whoa, aren't you supposed to be on the left here?
Yeah.
Like, don't you not like war? But
yeah. Exactly. But if it makes a penny, that's the thing with like neoliberalism that people don't seem to understand. It's like, it's people that still support the capitalist machine, right? Like they still support imperialism to an extent. And like you mentioned, a lot of times people don't realize, again, what is the left, right? Like what is the left? But people have like, quote unquote, given it this like connotation, right? Negative connotation. Things like socialists, things like communists, like people like Che Guevara, like, right? Like they have this negative connotation. Why? Because it's what they teach us to hate it, because otherwise, if we embraced it, we'd be taking down the system, right?
yeah, it's like they're not going to teach you about all these revolutionary figures in school, which is going to be like, you know, telling you how evil this system is. Like, I didn't see any. I went to San Francisco State for a semester. I went to Mesa College here, community college, and then I went
shout
to
out Mesa College.
Mesa College, yeah. And then I went to Cuyamaca Community College. That's where I went to horticulture school at.
Oh, cool.
And they ain't teaching you radical anything. Like, I had to learn like what surplus value was, like
Means of production.
Like, it's like they don't teach you. They don't give you the tools to. So we're arguing about things that already happened like 150 years ago.
Yeah. That
was like settled debate. Like, you know, the Social Democrats, or like before the Nazis. Can you say Nazi? I guess you can't say Nazi sometimes.
No, you're good. We're not monetized.
We're
can
not
say
monetized.
whatever you want.
It's like before the
stop us.
Nazis took over, it's like they had the option to be like, was it going to be a communist revolution or was it going to be a fascist revolution?
Right.
And like the Social Democrats sided with the fascists and like assassinated all the real leftists like Rosa Luxemburg and stuff. Pretty sure I got that right.
Yeah.
But it's like we already know that if you give in and you're like, well, we need to work with the landlords, we need to work with the owners and come to it just doesn't work. Like you end up regressing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you see it with the squad and stuff. It's like, okay, I thought these were the leftists of the leftists of the left, but then they vote for frickin' Nancy Pelosi, you know, super corrupt. They vote for the military industrial complex every time. Like,
Yeah. And it's always with the idea of like, one for them, one for us. Like, we'll do better. Like, we have to play the game, right? Like, people think that they have to, like, get in bed with the devil to be able to make a change. But it's just, again, like, funny you mentioned the squad because I know it's making a lot of rounds lately and things like that, especially people like AOC and stuff.
You see that video?
Yeah, Jesus, yeah.
Jeez.
And again, like, it's funny when I'll have right wingers at work, especially, of course, blue collar. They'll be like, "Fuck Joe Biden," and I'm like, "Yeah, man, fuck Joe Biden."
Yeah, it's like
they probably think right wing because I'm like, "Yeah, fuck Joe Biden," but obviously they don't understand that I hate him for different reasons, you know.
Oh my
or maybe
God,
the same reasons, but then we're just looking at it from a different lens.
The architect of mass incarceration, author of
Jim
the
Crow
crime
Joe,
film,
man.
Jim Crow Joe, and the NAFTA,
Yeah, exactly.
which quickly bankrupted the Mexican economy. Like,
yeah, it's pretty crazy that those are quote unquote leftist representatives because they're not, right? Like it's just this. It's all the grifters, right? You got people like Tucker Carlson. You have fucking Shapiro, Crowder, whoever all the shitty people are, right? They want to give you the narrative that that's the left because they're afraid of the real left. They're afraid
Yeah.
of the people that are actually looking to make a change.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier, there was this like pandemic radicalization, and
Oh,
it's
yeah, for
way more
sure.
mainstream. And I will live and die by Gen Z, man. Like those people are gonna make a change. I don't know how immediate and I don't know how big, but they're gonna make some noise, you know.
Yeah.
And it's because of they lived through those moments of history where they realized that like, oh fuck, shit's fucked up, you know, whether it was protests or people getting kicked out of their house for not being able to pay during the pandemic, you know, all these things that are pushing us to the edge, right? And like, what is late stage capitalism if not the beginnings of fascism, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's rough. But and just to go back a little bit, you mentioned, you know, talking only about what you know. I think it's super important because that's another thing with like leftists. It's very much like in the infighting. Like actually,
Oh, yeah.
you didn't, you know. Which is why I'm recently been talking about certain things, but only again from the point of view. I'm no like, what is it called? Love seat quarterback, or what is it called?
oh
Couch
yeah,
quarterback?
yeah,
What is it?
yeah.
Armchair.
philosopher.
I'm not an armchair philosopher. It's a chair.
Yeah.
No, but I'm no armchair socialist or communist. You know, I talk about the things I know through my experience with unions and labor and landlords and the things I deal with personally, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not here to tell you the 101 on socialism, but I talk about my experiences because I feel like they're shared experiences, right? Being exploited at work, share experiences. Being fucked over by your landlord, share experiences. And I think to that level, we can all sort of relate
Yeah.
before maybe the academic side and the theoretic side, because that might shy some people away.
Yeah, and I found that too. It's like people want the straight dope. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like we can kind of like sugarcoat it and try and like raise class consciousness by like, hey, have you thought of this or what? But it's like no, like just cut to the chase. The landlord's screwing you over. They call it passive income because they're not working.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so the same people are like, it's a job. It takes work. They're saying, I
It's
would
a
like
risk."
to have a little passive income.
Yeah, I'll
you know,
take it.
like
Yeah.
they know that the landlords don't work. That's what you call it.
And unfortunately,
You know.
it's almost aspirational. You see it a lot on TikTok, where people are like, how to create a passive income, right? Buy a house, screw your friends over, charge them rent.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's not how they say it, but that's what's coming out.
Yeah.
And then you're like, fuck, okay, not only are we punching upwards and, you know, spitting up, but we're also now creating more people. And then like the neoliberal mindset of like, well, if there was only more women landlords, it's like, no, that's not the point. You don't become the thing that is oppressing you. You get rid of it.
Did you see the recent CIA ad?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh man, it's just like you can totally tell that they're using kind of like the woke kind of
Oh shit! Oh my god!
thing for
That sounds
now.
like
They're
something out of
using
a
it
movie.
for imperialism and
Like
they
drop bombs on kids.
yeah,
Something
and
like
it's
that.
like the CIA, the biggest butcher of
Yeah.
like brown people in the world, is like running ads where they're like it was like a lady and she was like a first gen lady and she was talking about like how she has like she was using all the catchphrases of like
Inclusion,
real
diversity.
inclusion and like working class people are like, hey, this is, but they are using it now it's they're trying to use it for
To attract people in.
like propaganda, like using our own shit against us, like
Yeah.
it's wild.
It really
It's
is.
wild.
And a lot of that shit, like, because again, that's another thing people have. It's like, well, the woke problem, right? Like the cancel culture problem. And like, listen, I'm not saying that there isn't shitty reactionaries on both sides.
Yeah.
Because there is. And that clouds a lot of the class consciousness. Because you'll have people that are like blue collar that are against the quote unquote left because of the woke culture and the cancel culture and all this shit. And it's like, listen, man, I feel like you're hearing a lot of, for one, probably Tucker Carlson, which is all the worst parts of it.
Yeah.
But two, even if you were to hear it from like Twitter or like Instagram, from other accounts, you're probably mostly listening to reactionaries that are trying to make a dime on monetization because if their tweet doesn't blow up, then they're not going to eat that day. You know what I mean? Again, not just to justify it, but it's a job. A lot of people, the more crazy they sound, the more they're going to travel, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that they represent the entire left. Or for that matter, the entire right. I mean, I'm sure I'm mad at a lot of people that, or a lot of people might be mad at the right only because of the shit they hear about them. I got to work with a lot of these people, and they're decent people. They're people that go home and drink a beer after work and feed their family and hang out on the weekend, you know? And it really sort of shook me because, I mean, sometimes you learn to sort of hate the right, but then you sort of not feel bad, but you also kind of be like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from now. And and I try to have those conversations where I'm like, yeah, fuck the boss, and I kind of agitate that a little bit, and I'm like, man, go home. You feel bad, fucking go home. Nah, dude, he'll give you the 8 hours. Who cares? We won't say anything. I push that shit a whole lot because I'm not preaching woke culture. I'm not preaching all these crazy things that aren't that crazy really, but I'm not crazy. I'm not preaching the things they hate. I'm just kind of encouraging the shit that it's
and
only
what do those guys probably love the most is like doing that, like, damn, you did me a solid.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's like hell yeah, dude, thanks brother,
brother, you understand.
I'm
telling you, these people love the haul, man. They love the haul, and if they understood that, if we just spread a little bit of that, because sometimes a lot of the people that love the haul also say shit like this homeless problem. and it's like, oh, okay, we got a lot of work to do.
Well, you know, there's all these open homes, but they're
offices.
What
if we just put them in a place like a house? It's crazy, and but it's the little things, you know. It's your videos, right? It's the podcast. It's people doing their makeup and talking about class consciousness. It's people cooking and talking about anti-imperialism. It's the little things, right? It's the making it normal. It's the making it again, just involving the class consciousness, and more people realizing like, yo, that is fucked up. You know, that's really what it takes.
And it's true. It's like, that's the thing, is like, it's true. And when you say it to somebody, like, you know, hey man, like, do you think it's the person with the least amount of power that is controlling your life, or the person with the most power that's controlling your life? And the thing is, they have class consciousness. The owner class has complete class consciousness. They are fucking a tight, united group.
They know what the fuck they're doing.
They know what the fuck they're doing.
Why? Because they know that not having it would only hurt them. Right? Like, if rich people didn't have class consciousness, what would they do? They would compete with each other to the point that they drive each other to the ground. Right? Because everybody thinks that the free market is going to dictate everything, right? Like, if something's too expensive, no one's going to buy it. But guess what? The owners got together and they said, how about you put it for 7, I'll put it for 8, and then next week I'll put it for 6 and you put it for 7, and then we put it for 10 and you put it for 11, and then and now we fucked them, and now they have to buy gas. Right? Like, why is inflation happening right now? Because they have record profits. People like Amazon made more money in the last 3 years than they've made ever. Right? And why is that? Because of greed. It's insane. And again, it's a heavy topic, and there's a lot of ways to chop it, but we'll bring it back to the sorry.
I mean, I can go all day.
Dude, I love this stuff. And like I said, I've only been talking about this stuff for the last couple episodes because my girlfriend's like, you're always talking about it. Why don't you mention it on the podcast? It just got to the point where I was just like, I didn't know who to reach out to. So when I saw your videos, I was really excited because I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, it won't feel forced. You know what I mean?
How old are you?
26.
26? Oh, damn.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Cool. I have a feeling like after you were getting to jump on early, but when I turned 30, I was late. Just like,
funny enough, I feel like I'm late. But I feel like that's a normal feeling. I cared
so much.
Exactly.
I cared so much, and then I was just like, well,
sometimes you care a lot.
If it's true,
and you have all this energy, you just don't know where to put it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember I always considered myself, what's it called? A liberal, because that's what I thought the right thing was, right?
Yeah.
But I always sort of leaned more left. I just didn't have the words for it. I remember even thinking like, oh, communism is the worst. And I did love Che Guevara, but I was like, no, but like, he was kind of crazy. But
yeah, you're like, damn,
that's again, that's also part of this like agitprop benefit, because people are finding words for their feelings, and they're having this like sort of existential crises at work, and being like, oh, like no one understands, and then maybe they'll log into TikTok and see a funny skit about how someone's acting their wage. I know that's really big, or like quiet quitting. Yeah, and they laugh, and now that's class consciousness. You know, that's a little bit of a push. I mean, again, we're not revolutionizing yet, but it's a push.
It's like,
it's a push.
150 years ago, these people were already talking about this, and then that history was kept from you, and now you're living in like it's a future that shouldn't have been, you know, like, exactly. Or I mean, I guess if you get into like really crazy stuff, it was all
planned, right? I mean, Martin Luther King was killed. Fred Hampton was killed. Yeah, like Malcolm X. I mean, they made the steps to make sure we didn't know about that stuff, right?
Yeah, and what was the thing? It was like, oh, we gotta start. It's not just a subset of poor people; it's all poor people. You know, it's like, and once people get to that level, that's usually when they get assassinated.
Yeah,
you know,
unfortunately, yeah. But
anyway. So hopefully this doesn't blow up too much. No, I'm kidding. I hope it does.
No, well, I mean, it'd be great.
No, I feel like you can talk about this kind of stuff more.
Yeah, especially because again, it goes into people's head as like, because theory is heavy, right? Like I try to read theory, like the books I bought here. I read them, but I have to read them multiple times because these are big concepts. So I do rely on a lot of like analysts and like video essays to really help me understand the topic.
Yeah.
Because why not? You know, because it helps. And sometimes I'll listen to TikToks because they're funny, or listen to podcasts that break down these big concepts. And when they break them down, you realize it's not that complicated. It's just older English and economical terms that you didn't study 5 years for. So of course you don't understand them.
Like one, I just kind of like had I guess a breakthrough moment. You know, I was thinking about reading Capital Volume 1, and I was thinking, what the fuck is this about? You know, I can't understand a word of this.
Have you checked out Capital Illustrated though?
I have a copy of it, but it's in Spanish.
I'm gonna buy that from you today.
All right,
I'm gonna buy that from you because I've seen clips of it, kind of in a PDF.
I think it's a comic book.
Yeah. I was gonna say I've seen clips of it. Yeah. I've seen clips of it, and I was like, wow, that's awesome because it really breaks it down. Yeah. It's layman's terms, and that's okay. Yeah. Like that's perfectly fine.
But what I learned was we working class people see things in terms of its use value. Like, how can I use this? How is it going to benefit me? Is it going to make me, you know, less stress on my day, that kind of stuff? Whereas the owner class looks at things in terms of exchange value.
Right.
And that's where you get this kind of psychotic kind of pathology around like, oh, I want to own all these homes and jack up the price. Is because they're only perceiving it through its exchange value, which is, you know, exchange for capital.
ROI.
ROI. And it's like, if you've met like these entrepreneur bros, you know, it's like the way that they talk, it's just like so psychopathic. It's like, well, you're going to take this thing and turn it into an Airbnb or whatever. And like, but that could be like, you know how important that would be for all like 5 people to be like, have a place that they could go home to that was nice. But it's like, it's pretty crazy. You know, to think.
Yeah. And like I said, it's people that, because they're in this like capitalistic hellhole, they think that the only way out is by becoming part of the problem or the bourgeois, right? Like the goal is the bourgeois. The goal is to be a quote unquote capitalist. Because
the pedagogy of the oppressed.
Right. Yeah. Because if you become that, then you've run away from the issue. It's where like things like picking yourself up on your bootstraps really comes in, right? It's like the, what is it called? I don't know, but it's like, it's what the right pushes a lot. It's the idea that it's your fault that you're poor, pretty much.
Yeah.
And if they ran that so much into our heads, and with things like the American dream, that just by coming here, you have incredible potential. Not to mention that, okay, maybe to some effect there is some benefits of, you know, obviously otherwise people wouldn't do it, right? But we have to accept the fact that there's sort of a wall that we're all gonna hit, right? Like, you're not gonna become Elon Musk. I'm sorry to break it to you. You're not gonna become Bill Gates.
Your parents aren't apartheid emerald mine.
Exactly. Or Bill Gates, the fact that his mother helped him get one of his first one of his first IPs bought, or Bezos that came from a rich family. I mean, these are all people that like come from money.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe there is someone that made it out of, especially within music, right? You have capitalists like Jay-Z, that he says that he equated being called a capitalist to the N-word.
Oh my God.
Right. Someone like him definitely came from lower than that. but that's 1 in a million. I mean, you're talking about you have a better chance to winning the lottery than you would have like becoming Jay-Z.
It's not a way to design a society
Exactly.
off of that freaking thing. It's like, actually, yeah, just give us what you fucking owe us. You know, it's like we work out all the fucking time. Just pay us fucking for the stuff that we do. Like, I've been working since I was 15, you know, and what do I have to show for it? Nothing.
You've never been paid what you're worth.
Yeah.
Ever.
I worked at, have you ever been to Ultra Star Cinemas?
Yeah, no way.
I worked there for 5 years.
I always wanted to work at a theater.
It was tight.
I love the smell of popcorn. I love movies.
Oh, yeah.
And so I always wanted to work there. And I remember when I was younger, I would always apply. And my first job was Jack in the Box. And it's one of those things where like, well, I'm already here. So I just worked there for a while. Did other jobs. And then I got to the point where I was like, I think I'm too old to work at a movie theater. Just because like I was already like 24. The last time I was like, maybe I could go back. But I was like, no, like I'm older. And it's usually younger people that work there. So I felt like I might be the oddball out.
Yeah.
So I was like, no. I was like, I'll stay away. But I'll always regret not working at a movie theater. It seems so cool.
I mean, it was sick. I'm not gonna lie. I saw so many free movies.
Exactly. That's tight. I mean, not to mention, I'm sure it's hard work, and I'm sure you get paid shit. But
at that point, it was like $7.25.
Yeah, I mean, when I started working in an ambulance, I was getting paid $8.70 an hour.
In an ambulance?
This was 2014. December 2014.
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. To
that
this
was
day,
the minimum wage at that time?
$8.79, almost $9. I remember that.
Oh my god!
And I remember when I left, because I was already, I was like a supervisor and stuff like that. And when I left, they were still getting paid minimum wage, which was $15 at the time. That was 6 years after. So, I mean, that's shitty. You know, I mean, and it's not a whole lot of schooling, but we did a lot of shit, you know?
Yeah.
And we were there for 24-hour shifts. I mean, I used to work, I used to think it was a good job because they allowed you to work 2 24s. I would work Monday, Wednesdays, and then I would pick up a 10-hour shift every other week. So I was working like 58 hours a week. 2
consecutive 24-hour shifts?
So, no. So one on Monday, you get off Tuesday, and then you'd come back Wednesday, get off on Thursday. And maybe I'd work like a Saturday. So it was like a crazy schedule, but I was young, and I remember thinking like, well, they allow me to work more. Isn't that great? Like I remember being happy because it'd be like, we have an open 24, and I'm like 72 hours. Damn, that's so much money in my check. But I'm really just being super exploited.
And they feed off of that. Like, you know, like
the company relied on it. They said that 48 hours was a minimum. Like if you couldn't work 48 hours, they wouldn't hire you sometimes. Because they needed bodies to throw at the gauntlet to make sure that the company ran.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of when I started getting radicalized, because I remember showing up on scene, and we'd be like at someone's house or like at a hospital, and they would call us on the pager or the PTT, and they'd be like, actually don't pick them up, they don't have insurance. And I'd be like, oh, fuck that, because once the patient's on your gurney, they're your patient. Forget what the law behind it is. But once you've made contact, once you've been treated, you have to finish the treatment. Otherwise, you get penalized, right? So I was like, patient's already on the gurney. Oh, well, hurry up because blah, blah, blah. We have other calls. And I would be like, fuck this. We're going for that patient. Or like we'd transport. I'd force the transport, especially towards the end of my career as an ambulance provider, because I was the supervisor. So I would tell whoever was training, I was like, fuck them. Like, I'm going to take this patient. Yeah. This person needs to go to the hospital. Even if it was like the smallest thing, clearly they don't have a ride. God. Not to mention that sometimes there was patients that maybe would be taken advantage. But you have to understand that for every patient that's taken advantage, there's 10 people that aren't and actually need the help. So I will gladly transport all 11 of them, you know?
Golly.
Yeah, it was rough. And again, that's where I started being like, what the fuck?
Well, it's pretty trippy, right? Like, doctors pretty much work for the insurance companies.
100%.
It's like,
100%.
Hey, this person needs this. Let's talk to the insurance company first.
Yeah, and it's like I remember like people would have conversations about this, like patients be like, oh, well, I was supposed to get this, but I guess my insurance didn't cover it, so instead I got this. And I'm like, those aren't interchangeable. Like, this isn't the same as this. It's just cheaper. And this doesn't solve the issue or tell you what you have. it was just like really, really depressing, and from that aspect, but also from like the exploitation aspect, because the older I got working there, the more younger people. Because I mean, EMTs, you get them every other semester. You know what I mean? You're pumping kids out.
Yeah.
So you had more and more kids to pretty much exploit. And I do say kids because they're 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of time. I started when I was 18. So
and
then,
when you get your paycheck at that age, and you're just like, holy
kidding me?
shit.
I was making, like 800 every 2 weeks. I was going crazy. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was making a little bit more than people around me. Because, again, not because of what I was getting paid, but how many hours I was putting in. So crazy. Crazy that I did that. Crazy that I did that. Looking back, I wish I would have known about unionizing because I definitely would have pushed for that.
Unionize the...
fuck yeah.
Is there an EMT union?
Not in California. Not in San Diego, at least. Not that I'm aware of. I know that other states, because I remember when I left, I didn't leave. I left and I became a dispatcher for a while, and then I became a union member. And then I looked back and I was like, damn it. I should have stayed in medicine. But by that time, my certificate had expired, and I had no interest in like renewing it or anything like that. So I didn't. But crazy shit.
So you work for a private ambulance
so they're
company?
all private.
They're all private,
They're
right?
all private. Yeah, that's another thing that was surprising because when I was in high school, I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I want to be a paramedic.
And then, I thought it was a government.
I thought it was like
the fire.
Exactly. So I never thought about the money.
Yeah.
I just got the license. It was like a stepping stone to paramedic. I still had another, but I never did it. And the only difference between them really is what medication you can give. Because they both do this about 90% of the same shit, except paramedics have a lot more medicine. So it's like they take an extra pharmacological course.
Oh, so there's a difference between EMT and a paramedic?
Yeah, EMT is like EMTB, which is basic. Other states have EMTI, which is intermediate, but we don't really use it. And then EMTP, which is paramedic. And paramedic, there's a lot more medicine that they can use. And there's like one or two other things like, I know EKGs, they do a lot of EKGs. I could do them with a nurse present, but they could do it by themselves. And like little things.
Ectocardio.
Oh, that sort of. Electrocardiogram, yeah.
Electrocardiogram.
Which is just stickers.
Yeah.
I could do that. But they could actually interpret what was coming out of it and say, oh, he's having a stroke, he's having a heart attack, he's having arrhythmia, like whatever.
God damn.
Which a lot of us, because we were there, we deduced eventually.
Yeah.
But they just practice it more. But
God.
Anyway.
Yeah, the healthcare system's fucked.
Healthcare system's fucked. Exploitation is fucked. But we'll circle back to your bookstore.
Cool.
Because that's what we're here for.
All right. Yeah.
No, I love it. I've loved this conversation so far. But anyway, so we'll bring it back. So we came from a big collection. At what point did you say, let's sell some books? Was it the studio, or did you get the studio first?
Well, when I wanted to move to the bigger studio, I was like, well...
Was it this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Or no, it was two halls down. Initially, this was my wife's studio for jewelry.
Oh, okay. This was the jewelry one.
This was the jewelry.
Yeah.
But we were so cramped in there. She was like, you know what? Why don't you guys just take the bigger one? It's got like this much extra, but it's enough to really
nice,
change
man.
it up.
It looks
though,
nice,
honestly.
yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Books come and go. Let me just start selling them.
Yeah.
And that can subsidize the rent. So, I could potentially still kind of use this sometimes as my writing space.
Nice. Podcast studio. You're welcome.
You're welcome anytime. We can do this. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. When I'm so freaking beat by the time I get home.
I'm sure, man.
Do I want to write?
I will say that I completely relate. I mean, after a hot day, summer's day, shoveling
this
dirt.
Was so hot.
It was rough. It's rough sometimes being creative. From any extent, whether it's like editing something or in your case, writing something. I mean, it's not that you don't want to, because I'm sure, I don't know if it happens to you, but like at your job, are you constantly having all these crazy ideas? I'm like, as soon as I get home, I'm going to write this, and that. Yeah. And then your body just doesn't allow you to. Yeah. Or if you sit down for too long, that's it. That's where you're staying for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot. Yeah.
Definitely. And like, because I work all the way in Escondido, so it's
the
like.
drive too.
I leave at like 5:45. And I'm just like, zip up there. And then like, by the time I get back down here, it's like almost 4, which is still pretty early. I could get some work done, but then it's like, really, I should be going to bed about like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, like if I want to get my.
Because you gotta wake up early. Because I gotta wake up. It's that like cycle of like, and I know there's like a lot of theories behind it, but a lot of people that work, well, I wouldn't say 9 to 5s because you don't work a 9 to 5. It's a lot earlier. But a lot of the people that work like 5 days a week, right? We tend to have this thing where we try to rob ourselves from time the night before, because you feel like you're doing something for yourself. You're like, if I just stay awake a little longer and enjoy it a little, but it really it's detrimental the next day. Yeah. And it's not your fault. Of course, you want to enjoy as much time off.
Yeah.
And sleeping sometimes doesn't feel like time off. It just feels like sleeping. It feels like almost like punishment. Yeah. Especially when you're younger. You're like, sleeping? No. Like, right? No one wants to go to bedtime. Yeah. And as you get older, that's still ingrained in your mind. You don't want to sleep. Why? Because you want to enjoy, you want to feel like your day off was longer than your day at work.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's subconsciously. I mean, I do it a lot where I'm already in bed. I'm just like doom scrolling, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I could have been slept an hour ago.
Yeah.
So it's rough. It's rough and you're fighting, but again, man, waking up early. I've never been a morning person, and I work in construction. One of the things known for waking up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, you gotta beat the heat.
Yeah, beat the heat, but also like beat the traffic, and then like everything always starts super early because the earlier we get out, the earlier we get in, the earlier we get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you have headphones at your work?
Sometimes. So like the last week, I've been doing a whole lot of flagging, which is the most boring.
Like for traffic
control, yeah.
Oh.
Flagging.
I always give those guys a WhatsApp.
Yeah, they're cool. Honestly, half the time, if they're not working for a company that does just that, because there's some companies that are just specifically flagging, they're apprentices like me. I'm an apprentice, so I'm a union, but I have maybe another 6 months before I become a journeyman.
Sick.
I'll getting the big bucks now.
Yeah.
No, but I'll be getting the big bucks. Yeah, right. So right now I do a lot of shit work. Right, I'm the guy that's like, oh, there's something hard to do. Just put the apprentice in.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're cool about it, and I am learning a lot. The people I work with are amazing. But for the last week, I've been doing flagging, and everybody comes up to me. And I'm like, man, I know what it is, but you're paying your dues. We all do it, you know. And then like they're like, as soon as another apprentice shows up, you're jumping in.
Oh yeah.
So right now, yes, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I've been listening to a lot of music.
Yeah.
But it does get tired. I mean, you're just standing there, man.
Yeah.
And people are crazy. People try to run you over every day. So. But actually, I wanted to ask you about what you do for a living, because my cousin wants to do that. He said he wants to be he's farming, pretty much.
Farming, yeah.
Farming. And I didn't know. I told, because he kept asking me questions about it. I was like, I don't know, man. I know there's like a program in like San Luis Obispo or something. I remember hearing that Cal Poly was like big on that.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know what it is, man. Like, I don't know. But I'd love to hear. I mean, here or later, I'd love to hear about that, because I know my cousin's really, really interested.
Yeah, I'm down to talk about it.
So what is it that you do?
Just like, well, technically I'm in charge of like the composting operation and soil health kind of thing. Okay. So I have some specialist training in like soil microbiology.
Oh, cool.
Not from like a community college or college, but I took this program. It's called Soil Food Web School.
Okay.
So it's this lady, and they teach you. It's like beyond organic, like using the biology to go out and harvest the nutrients essentially in the soil for you to. So it's like it goes really well with my political ideology too, because it's just like, all that synthetic fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides
it's more
and stuff.
Damage than good.
It's just some crap that they sold. Like literally, it's like stuff from surplus bombs from World War II. Shit. That they found out was like, oh, we can use this, and it makes everything green, but it's like, and it's all petroleum based and shit.
Jesus.
But
so probably ruining the earth or ruining the soil for another 10 years.
Ruins the soil.
Yeah.
So like the World Bank like made all these structural adjustment loans for agriculture and all the third world and stuff like this, and all the developing nations. And they had to buy all this chemical crap, and they totally ruined their soils. Like, but it's just kind of like, it's like you use biology, like there's enough nutrients in the soil. This is off topic, but
you're good. You're
good. Like you use, like there's enough like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, manganese, iron.
Yeah.
There's enough of that in the soil.
already. Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
But what's missing is the certain species of bacteria that goes and eats that. And then the protozoa that eats that. And it poops out the nitrogen or whatever in an available form. Yeah. And so that's kind of like the beyond organic. And that's so anti-capitalist because it's like, so what are you selling? You know, no, it's just information in your head, you know.
Yeah. Knowing how to do it.
And
sharing it too, because I mean, a fertilizer, like you said, like the big brand, right? Like big brand fertilizer. They're just trying to flip a buck. I mean, they don't care about the soil. They just want something that'll sell. Their
product creates its own
demise.
It creates the demise, but by using it, you now need to use it more. The product,
of course,
it's like a drug.
That's capitalism.
Yeah, that's like so. It creates a problem and then solves it. It's like how many things?
That's what they love, right? Like, and that'll keep you hooked. And maybe it wasn't created with that intent, but they realized that it happened, and now they're happy. Yeah, because you'll keep buying it.
And it's like, okay, you killed all the biology in the soil. Now you have to use synthetic fertilizers.
Otherwise, you're fucked.
You know. Yeah. So I took that course to kind of like try and get. The idea was I kind of wanted to have like a composting business. Okay. You know, where I can kind
go
of
along with your landscaping business.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, and like offer, like maybe even sell compost. Cool. I kind of wanted to have like all kinds of different things. Yeah, yeah. Maybe in the future, but I'm kind of getting my chops now. I was like,
that's great though. I mean,
I'm learning how to use a tractor.
There we go.
I was on the tractor all day today.
Nice. A blade or
no? It's like a scoop.
Okay,
like,
cool.
Yeah.
So I drive those sometimes. I shouldn't. Oh yeah. Because I'm an apprentice, but I drive those from time to time.
Yeah, I was like. I got a full blast of dust in my face, and I was blind for a second, and I was like, fuck, I should be wearing my safety glasses
PPE,
right now.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it.
Yeah, I get that.
But, yeah, so that kind of, like, allowed me to come into it from a different angle than just, like, starting as, like, a laborer, because those guys are really underpaid and
man, it's rough.
You know, mistreated and, you know... Back to the NAFTA thing, it's like that's by design.
Yeah, it's supposed to happen.
You know, that's why
it's interesting. Not to derail those again, but it's interesting when people complain about like, things like the convoys and stuff like that, or like the heavy migration from like the south. But it's like, well, if the fucking government that you praise so much didn't go and destabilize these governments, then you wouldn't have the problem that it's like that fucking soil thing.
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to cuss, but it's like that soil thing.
No, I'm a big cusser.
Yeah, you're creating a problem that's only feeding in more into the problem, and it's becoming this endless cycle of bullshit.
Yeah, it's like, what if I told you in 2012 the U.S. did a coup in Honduras? Yeah, you know, and then it became the murder capital of the world. Like, and then who's the part of the migrant caravans? Hondurans. You know, like. Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. Or just like even like in southern parts of Mexico and things like that. Or just the people that cross from like the northern states anywhere in Mexico. I mean, there's still destabilization over there. Or like it's the same problem of capitalism that's running people north, right? With the promise of things like the American dream and stuff like that. And it's just, again, it's an endless cycle. And for some people like us, sometimes we'll be like, well, there's the problem. But for a lot of people, it's like, what problem? That's just okay. Well, they'll accept that it's a problem, but they'll be like, "But that's just the way things are."
Oh yeah,
like, that's just and that's that really breaks my heart because I'm like, I know that's how things are, man. But things have always been the way things are, and doesn't mean things can't change.
Slavery ended.
Exactly.
Feudalism ended.
I hate that I always bring that one up, but like the monarchy ended. Like yeah. I mean, sometimes they get replaced by shittier things or other equal things, but there is an end to these things, and. Again, like we said, we look back sometimes, and I love those recordings when of like communism, socialism were really high, and they were really being introduced into the U.S. and they're huge in Europe and stuff like that. And it does feel a little bit like, man, I don't think we'll get if they couldn't do it back then. You know, how could we do it now? Yeah. But with the access of information that we have now, I think there is a push for these ideals. And again, we don't have to put a label on it. It's just the ideals of class consciousness. That's really what it comes down to. You know?
And it shows itself like in the Pan-African movement, you know, with which was headed by Gaddafi. Yeah. You know, they had a Pan-Africanist movement, and it's
killed by Hitler.
Killed by Hillary Clinton.
Jesus, man, and yeah. Didn't just something come out about Hillary talking about that? And
Did
like,
she?
oops, she said something like, and then he went, oops, or she made like a joke about Gaddafi, like like him dying or something.
Well, when it first came out that he was killed,
Yeah.
she was like, "We came.
Oh, there it is.
We saw. He died.
He died. There
and
you go.
It's
It
just
resurfaced not too long ago.
Yeah.
And and then it's crazy.
And the fucked up thing was that was their, like, Libya was like the bulwark, like the block from like kind of like this recolonization that's been happening because they were so strong in the region. And it's like, that's another thing, is like they gave up their nukes.
Yeah.
Immediately got invaded by the U.S.
Yeah.
And they had healthcare, education. New married couples got $50,000 like to buy a home.
What happened
and
to
stuff.
Iraq, right?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's crazy to think that people in the U.S. can be so critical of someone like Russia, not to justify them at all, but without realizing that that's the shit we do, man. Like, that's every war we've ever had has been something similar. That's what Vietnam was. That's what South Korea was. That's what Iraq was, and Afghanistan. Like, we're the Russians. We're the Russians in all of those situations, you know. Oh, and like people like Obama, right? Like, he bombs something like, what was it, every 30 minutes there was a bomb drop during his entire time there in office.
More bombs than HW.
Yeah,
you know,
it's insane. It's insane, but it's all these it's all this propaganda that we get fed from the moment we were born, right? And TV or school and stuff like that. And a lot of people will be like, "Well, I'm just not political," and it's like, this is beyond politics. This is humanitarian. This is like you have to understand that if we don't pay attention to these sort of things, then we'll just bound to repeat ourselves.
Yeah, and it's like, if you say you're apolitical, then you're for the status quo.
Yeah.
The status quo is murdering all these people and stealing all their fucking resources. So by saying status quo, it's like, that's all good.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Oh, no, that's okay. Like, that's just things are. That's just the way things are. It's like, oh, of course I don't agree with that, but what are you going to do? It's like, well, fuck, tell your neighbor, tell your friend, share the podcast, make a video, like, follow, read some books, follow some creators. I don't know, like, just, there's so much you can do. Organize.
Yeah, it's like, there's this thing where it's like, I think the Iraq War was the first war in history where there was a protest before it even started, you know, and then, you know, okay, Bush gets us into 2 wars. Obama gets us into a whole lot more than that, and there's no protests about it, you know. So
because it's just normalized at this point.
Yeah, so like just by us not being complicit, I think is like, at least let's all have the idea of what the actual issue is. Yeah. Like, I mean, let's start there.
Yeah, like the people in power, the people making these moves, they don't need you to support them. They just need apathy, right? They just need to be allowed to do it. Because if they do it in the shadows or whatever the fuck, because a lot of this shit is public information. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if they can just do it enough without getting any repercussions, then they'll keep doing it. Why wouldn't they keep doing it? Like, it keeps... Why? Because it supports the war machine, whether it's bullets, weapons, because that's our biggest export of the world, and then having more boots on the ground than all of the countries surrounding us for like miles. Yeah. Right? So it's insane. But it really comes down to they're making money. As crazy as it sounds, they're making money and they're establishing white supremacy. That's really what it comes down to. And it sounds super alarmist, and it's like, oh man, come on. It's what it is, dude. That's what it is. But yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. But
anti-imperialism.
Anti-imperialism, man.
I mean, yeah, I don't know the exact way that it needs to go. But if we, like, you know, imagine if the workers of Amazon unionized, you know, like, do you think that the workers, if they had control of the gears of Amazon, you know, would they choose to take...
no pre-breaks?
Or would they... Yeah, no, they should definitely choose to take P-breaks. But do you think they would choose to, like, take government contracts
no.
and stuff, or like the Google people who work at Google, you know, it's like, do you think if they were unionized, do you think they'd choose to like spy on all the citizens of the freaking world, you know, sell people's data? Like, that's the thing. It's like, if we had more workers control, it's like a lot of the stuff would just fall into place because, I mean, of course there would be new contradictions that opened up and developed because we're just, you know, always moving forward, but like,
but you learn, and like, unless we are able to do it, then how will we know that it isn't better?
Yeah.
Right. And you bring up a good point because, as like, let's say like the bread and butter of the U.S. What is it? It's freedom. It's democracy, right? It's the idea, this bigger idea of like, well, we at least get to choose who represent us, right? Like taxation without representation and stuff. Blah blah blah. Why aren't we allowed to apply that at work? The most monarchistic fucking system we have is the fascist system we have is the workplace. The fact that you don't get to choose who is your manager, the fact that you don't get to choose what is done with the money, how it's reinvested, and people will be like, well, they know better, they're at the top, that's why they're the boss. It's like, no, dude, like you're the one.
Just whip yourself in the back, you know, just like
just kiss the boot, I guess.
Kiss the boot.
No, like you're the one making the money, right? And it's as simple as like, are you the one cleaning the bathrooms? Guess what? You're needed to make this work.
And even like, I remember working at the movie theater, and I was like, you know, looking at there, we took the ice scooper and used it for the popper machine. And that cut down, or something like that, that cut down on all the fucking chopped popcorn bits at the bottom of the thing. And so you don't really realize when you're working that you're just a creative fucking human who's just trying to like do shit sometimes. And that's adding profitability to
you'll never see it.
The company. But you're not going to see that. And you just kind of do that shit just because you're like, nah, fucking do it right. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, and we all have this, but we don't see the benefit of it, you know.
Yeah. The Munchies meal, that's an idea for an employee from Jack in the Box. Most of the drinks
really?
Yeah, most of the drinks that come from Starbucks. The pink drink and all these crazy drinks that you see on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. That's just people that work there that get time. Because I worked at Starbucks for a little bit. People get creative, man. We create crazy fucking drinks. Yeah. And what happens? They blow the fuck up on social media. Who makes the profit? Starbucks.
Yeah.
No one knows who made pink drink, but trust me, Starbucks fucking profits off of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
or Hot Cheetos.
Hot
Didn't
Cheetos.
that guy work for?
Yeah.
He worked for the Frito company.
He was like a janitor or something.
Yeah.
And sure, they'll pat him in the back and put him in a magazine, but that's all he's ever gonna see from it. Because
is he gonna join the owner class?
God, no.
And get a return on his freaking investment? You know?
No, they'll give him a little bit of money and be like, see, now he's used as propaganda of like, if you work hard enough, you too can make a little more than minimum wage.
Yeah, you too can potentially move, and maybe you'll even be able to take a mortgage out where you give all your money to the bank. Like,
it's rough, man. It's rough because even breaking it down to like labor, right? Like you think someone like a software engineer, say, well, I'm not doing labor. I was like, well, are you creating profit that it's out of your control? Like, right? Are you making a means of production that you don't own? Then you're labor, man. Like at the end of the day, even if you're making fucking whatever you're making, like, you're creating profit for someone that isn't working.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think that's the crux of the issue, is that it took me like so fucking long to like understand that point, you know, because there's so much, you kind of got to just go through and reprogram too, because you're deprogram
first, all the bullshit, and then reprogram the people to be like, hey, listen, this is really how.
Yeah.
But again, that starts with like class consciousness.
Yeah. Class consciousness.
Well, Joey, thank you so much. It's been such a great conversation.
Yeah.
We went at it for a while. I mean, we could be going for hours, to be honest. And I'd like to invite you to do another one.
I'm down.
This was a lot of fun.
I'm down.
This was super, super loose. But if you ever want to hit a topic or anything, dude, I'm open. I'm trying to, again, like I said before we started recording, I'm trying to make this a more common thing. Yeah. Especially, like all topics, really. But just, you know, I'm down to, let's hit a book. Let's have a book club. Let's do something, man. I really like this conversation, and I think it'd be fun to do something again. Yeah.
Hey, me too, man. Me too. I feel like everybody after the pandemic, I have so many people that come in And it's like they definitely got revolutionized during the pandemic, you know.
That's good to know.
And they're coming around, they're sticking their heads down. They're like, dude, who else thinks like this, you know,
dude?
And you're like, oh, fucking everybody does.
And I need, yes, because I love my friends, but sometimes I'll bring up these topics to my friends, and they're like, come on, man, like, what are you gonna do? You know? And I get it, you know. It's just, it's hard sometimes. So, or sometimes they'll say something like, oh, like, I agree with you, but what am I going to do about it, you know?
Yeah.
Very defeatist stuff like that. But I love them, and it's not their fault. But sometimes it is nice to reach out to people that sort of think like you do, or like, you know, because I'm sure we don't agree on everything.
Sure.
I'm sure in this podcast we did. But I'm sure we'll hit things that we don't agree with.
Yeah.
But that's okay, and that's part of growth, right?
And it's like, you don't need to agree with everybody. That's this cancel kind of stuff. Is like, you don't need to agree with everybody 100%. To form a coalition. And in fact, it's kind of like a psyop that we all have these like hardline niche issues that we like are really sticking to. But it's like, hey, why don't we just like focus get together, and then maybe we could just kind of like push getting healthcare or push, you know, hey, how about we fucking stop bombing this country? Like,
what's hard it's hard to argue about inclusion when you can't feed your family. You know what I mean? Like, let's take one step at a time. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that maybe you think that affirmative action is wrong, but how about first we make sure that you have health insurance. First we make sure that we're both feeding our families, you know. And some people may say like, oh, like these are issues too. And I understand that intersectionality is super important. But we have bigger fish to fry, right? Like, inclusion is great until it stops me from getting what I deserve from my labor, right? But anyway, Joey, where can we find you? Where can we find your shop?
Oh, yes.
Shout outs.
Come on down to Barrio Logan. We're on Logan Avenue, across the street from Port Vita. End of the hall, you'll see an Art Hub sign. You go through the pearly purple gates that need a paint job. And all the way at the end of the hall, you can catch us Saturdays and Sundays.
Yep.
And it's going to be, we try and get here at 10:30, 11, and then until about 5. So
for sure.
Yeah, come check us out on the weekends. And also follow us, Reyes_Rarities on Instagram. Maybe we'll have a TikTok soon. I don't know.
Hey, I love to hear about it. Yeah, shoot us the link.
Pushing the propaganda.
Oh, man, we have to. I love your videos. Like I said, I really like your videos.
Cool.
So I'll definitely follow. Like I said, I love this shop. If anyone wants to come or has any questions, come through. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer.
I'll talk.
He'll talk.
Yeah.
He's super friendly. Even before we set this up, we had a nice conversation about some of the art he has here and stuff like that. So definitely come through. We need more people, more shops.
Come out of the woodwork.
Yes.
You know.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and until next time.